Christmas. One of the joys of Christmas, which I just was talking with the kids about, is being home. Is being home with our family, experiencing the joy and the traditions that we have as families at Christmas time. And you know those traditions that you have in your household that are so near and dear to your heart, whether it's you love being at home for Christmas, watching a Christmas movie together, drinking hot chocolate, candy canes, watching Christmas movies together. Or being at home where it's loud and there's a lot of family and you have Christmas music on in the background as everyone's running around doing their own thing. Or maybe it's gathering with the family around the Christmas tree and watching as everyone's eyes are just in wonderment over the presents under the tree. Maybe it is smelling the aromas of the delicious food that's been prepared and you can't wait to eat and sit around the family table together as one big family eating Christmas dinner. Christmas just feels the best when we are at home. This is why parents love to have their kids home for Christmas. Grandparents love to have their kids and grandkids home for Christmas. It is a joy at Christmas time. And so with that being said, could you ever imagine voluntarily leaving home for Christmas? Everyone is gathered together, and you say, "No, I don't think so." And you go and do your own thing. Everyone else is at home. You were there, and you left. That would be a bummer. And yet that's exactly what happened on that first Christmas. Here again, the words of Luke chapter 2. In those days, Caesar Augustus issued a decree that a census should be taken of the entire Roman world. This was the first census that took place while Quirinius was governor of Syria, and everyone went to their own town to register. So Joseph went up from the town of Nazareth in Galilee to Judea, to Bethlehem, the town of David, because he belonged to the house and line of David. He went there to register with Mary, who was pledged to be married to him and was expecting a child. While they were there, the time came for the baby to be born, and she gave birth to her firstborn, a son. She wrapped him in cloths and placed him in a manger, because there was no guest room available for them. That very first Christmas, what happened? Mary and Joseph left home. They left home because Caesar Augustus, the Roman emperor, issued a decree, a mandate, a command, that everyone had to go back to their family's original town to register because he wanted to know how much he could tax the people. And so Mary and Joseph had to leave Nazareth from way up north in Galilee and come all the way down to Bethlehem, 80 to 100 miles south. Mary was 9 months pregnant. And ladies, consider this. No cars, no planes, no trains. At best, a donkey, but we're not even told there's a donkey. 80 to 100 miles. And if you notice, it says that Joseph went up to Bethlehem. The elevation difference is 1,500 feet, at least. And so you're walking uphill the whole time. 9 months pregnant, away from home. If you were that pregnant, do you think you want to be in the comfort of your home? Yes. Do you think that you want the familiarity of your home? Absolutely. And to make matters worse, they get to Bethlehem, and what do they find out? There's so many people here, there's not even a guest room available. And so where do they go? Down with the animals. Down with the animals. Do you know that feeling of being homesick? That pit that you get in your stomach? I wonder if Mary had it that night. Of just, I'm 9 months pregnant. I wish for anything that I could just be back home. And yet it's down with the animals in Bethlehem that all of a sudden water breaks. And she looks at the animals. And then she looks back over at her husband, who's never done this before, who's probably wide-eyed, wondering, uh-oh, what do we do now? And it's there with the animals that she has a son. And she wraps him in cloths and places him in a feeding trough because there was no guest room available. The very first Christmas spent away from home. And yet they didn't voluntarily go. But there's someone in the story that voluntarily left home. It's a child lying in a manger. He's Jesus, the one who saves people from their sins, and yet Jesus' existence didn't begin at conception. Jesus' existence didn't begin at his birth. Jesus is God himself, who has no beginning and no end. He's the one who said, "Let there be light," and there was light. It's through him that all things were created. This is God himself placed in a manger. God, who took on human flesh and entered history. John chapter 1 says the Word, God, became flesh and made his dwelling among us. Why in the world would he do that? If you're in a home, heaven, where you hear the angelic choir all the time, when there's only peace and joy and comfort, there's no sorrow, no mourning, no crying, no pain, there's only gladness that just overtakes you forever, why would you leave that heavenly home and come here? Because I got to be honest, my home's not that. And I'm sure yours isn't either. Instead, what do our homes look like? There's some days, maybe we get through Christmas when there's nothing but joy and peace in the house. But oftentimes there's arguing, passive-aggressive comments. There's stress. There's resentment. Broken relationships. We can't get together with that side of the family because these two don't get along. There's sorrow. There's mourning. There's suffering. Why would Jesus ever want to leave his heavenly home to come here? The answer is very simple. He changed his address from heaven to earth so that he could change your eternal address from earth to heaven. Jesus came into the world to bring you into his heavenly home forever. This is why he came into the world. And you may be sitting there thinking, well, why couldn't I just go in by myself? Why does he have to come? Because God's home is a perfect home. God's home in heaven, there is no brokenness, there's no suffering, there's no hurtful words, there's no harmful actions, there's not even harmful thinking. And do you know who we are to God? Do you know what God sees when he looks at us? Too many times I like to think that God sees someone that he would just welcome open arms into his home. And yet too often he sees Cousin Eddie from Christmas Vacation, the one who says so many insensitive things, ignorant things. And that's because of my sin. We can't just walk into heaven because God's home is perfect. And so what did Jesus do? God himself came to earth to dwell with us, to live with us, to die for us, and rise again, to open his heavenly home to you and me. It's like the angel said to the shepherds, peace on earth, peace to you and me, that no matter what happens in this life, we have a heavenly home to look forward to. Because Jesus voluntarily left his heavenly home to come here to you and to me. Do you want to know how much God the Father loves you? Look down at the manger and then look up at the cross. And you will see a Father in heaven who loves you so much that he wants you in his eternal home forever. It doesn't matter what you've done. It doesn't matter your past. What do you have? You have God the Father waiting at heaven's gates, arms wide open for you, waiting to bring you into his heavenly home. It doesn't matter who you are. The gifts of heaven from God the Father, the gifts of grace, of mercy, of love, they're yours. And they're yours forever because of Jesus. You have a God, the Father of the world, who's a good, good Father, who says to you that He's with you always, that He's guiding you and leading you through this life until you get into His heavenly home forever, where you get to see Him face to face, where sorrow and sighing will flee, and gladness will overtake you forever. And you'll be filled with joy, excitement, gladness, and happiness for eternity. This is yours because the Christ child was born, because He left His heavenly home to come here to save us from our sins, so that God can welcome us to His eternal home forever. And so tonight, tomorrow, as you gather with your family, and as you're eating the family dinner, as you're opening presents, as the Christmas music is playing, and you think to yourself, my heart is so full, remember that moment. And just think, this is going to be heaven forever. When I enter God's heavenly home, I will experience this feeling forever, because the Christ child was born to save us from our sins, to open heaven's gates, and you have a heavenly home waiting for you because of Him. May God be with you, and Merry Christmas.